Right, I've got here my box of transistors, so we'll see what we can find to put in them. Got all sorts in here. What they are? What's that? Don't know what that is. All neon. I mainly keep bulbs in here. I don't do an awful lot of transistor work, and they're quite small. But I've got all my diodes and transistors, and obviously keep light bulbs in here as well as some Russian neon indicators. Some really old transistors in here. There's that gold one, I think is a Philco, which would have been imported from the US. These are the really old ones. I'll keep them separate. Some dual chip sockets there. I don't really do a lot of modern electronics, so, and fuses, diodes of salt, Schottky diodes, more diodes, germanium diodes. Back here, some big power transistors there, some bridge rectifiers. When I work on German sets, these are all dead AF117s mixed in here against some. There's all sorts of stuff in here, but mainly they're dead AF117s, 114, 115, 116, 117s. There's all sorts on here. What's that one? It's an interesting one. What's that? A Mazda AC113. God knows where I got that from. Well, yeah, so there's all these AF117s and stuff. They're all dead. And here I've got silicon transistors, AC214s. What's in there? BC109s. Well, they're NPNs, so I can't use them because I'm looking for PNP. These are all PNP. These are Russian GT332s. I bought a couple of hundred of these, so I'm probably going to try these and see where we end up. And keep all sorts in here. What's under here? Oh, big old diodes. Probably for TV, where it's some trimmer caps. I don't know what that's doing in there. I've got a separate box for capacitors. Neon bulbs. What is in there? Some sort of chip. What's that? Ugh, don't know what that is. LM386s. Right. So let's put that there, and then that can be stuffed down there somewhere. I think I was making a little signal injector. There's more neon bulbs in there, I think. Diodes, fuses of various sorts. Yeah. Right, I'm going to try some of these. Right, here we are, having put some new transistors in the FM board. I've put 4 new transistors in there. Those are Russian GT332s, or 322s, can't remember now. And I've also put a new 100 UF electrolytic in there, which I'll come to in a minute. FM sensitivity is much improved across the band, but one problem I did have was what seemed like an intermittent audio amplifier board here. Now, as I was moving it about, the volume kept going. It was either very quiet or totally gone, and I was just tapping around the board because I couldn't see anything obvious. These are all fairly new electrolytics. The board was recapped before I got it, but they all look fairly new, so it can't have been done all that long ago. The only one I have replaced is this one, because the other one was a more modern capacitor here. So I put a new Philips just to keep the look of all these blue heat shrunk electrolytics. And as I was moving the board about and tapping it, the sound would come back, and then it would go again, and I'd tap again just there or wherever, and it would go again. And I thought I had tin whiskers inside either one of these two transistors here, because every time I tapped it would just go, and my tapping sort of narrowed it down to this one, and which I think is an AC 127 along with this one. But no, what it turned out to be, as I was moving the board around, it turned out to be that electrolytic there. And whoever replaced this didn't do a very good job, and I've had to resolder it here, or reflow the solder joint. It looked like the leads hadn't been dressed properly before they went into the joint, so they were slightly corroded, and the solder wouldn't stick to them. Whoever did it had also lifted the track here, the PCB track. These are quite delicate, these early PCBs, so I've just run a little bit of wire under there just to strengthen the joint up a bit, because there's no way I'd replace that. And it all seems to be working fine now. Let's have a listen to FM. Oh, before we do, so as I say, I replaced that capacitor and the sensitivity has improved, and if I put it on my capacitor checker, so this one's a daily capacitor and there's no date that I can see on it really, nothing that makes any sense. So they're usually pretty rubbish, these daily ones by now. That rivet there, I think air gets in there, and anyway, they're not very well made. And you know, to be fair, these radios weren't, you know, I guess expected to be working 50 years later. So I've got my Peak Atlas ESR meter here. Let's have a look at this capacitor and see what it says. So it thinks it's in circuit, so it's pretty much short circuit. Yeah, dead. Right, let's move this out of the way, and I'll tell you a funny story. Well, it wasn't all that funny. I was repairing another Hacker Sovereign, an RP25, and I'd got the board out, and I'd just put the board to rest on the edge here, switched it on, and the board blew up because it must have short-circuited on the piano hinge there. So I'm quite careful not to have anything lying under these boards now. Anyway, let's turn it on and see what we get.
Less invasive techniques using brain scans and other technology.
So that's on FM,
good readout on lots
with
of different
just
things that are happening
that as an aerial.
But what Dr. Kennedy decided was that this speech problem, this idea of decoding speech, ideally in someone who doesn't have the power of speech themselves,
bolted down fully yet.
Detailed recordings from individual brain cells inside the brain, and that's what his electrode.
And the volume is.
But to answer some of those questions, he needed a guinea pig. For example, someone who suffers from a disease like ALS.
That was about 3/4 of the way. So that's how far I've got. Now let's just turn it on again.
Next person will be me.
Switch to medium wave.
Waking in that boots to be given a chance to perform here.
Now,
can the BBC hang on to a building like this built over 100 years ago, which must cost a fortune to...
This seems to be working really well on the original transistors. Undoubtedly, they've got a little bit of tin whiskers going on inside them, but I don't know at the moment whether I'm going to pull them out or just wait until they go. I'm definitely going to replace all three electrolytics here and just see how it goes, and that should improve even more. But last night I had it on while I was working. I was receiving Spanish stations because I was listening to the, I think it was Barcelona v Atletico Madrid. I was listening to that in Spanish on this, so you know, Spain's not very near. So it seems to be pulling in the let's see what we get. Actually, it's about 9:15 in the evening here, so let's just see what we get.
Radio Cambridgeshire.
Well, this is my local radio station, BBC Cambridgeshire. So let's. Well, that's a Spanish radio station. So is that. So
First of all, the electrodes went in.
Sensitivity.
Had the same. It's now known as one of the most regularly paused.
Sensitivity is not that bad. There's another Spanish station, and you'll hear this interference as I'm getting nearer. About 450 meters I am here. I don't know what language that is, but you know, as you can see, just to prove a point, it's quite sensitive. We're going right up to the top end of the medium wave band.
A jövőkeddig tartó programokra 100 000 vendéget várnak itthonról és a határon túlról. Riportja.
So, yeah, not bad. Right, so the next stage is to put 3 new electrolytics, and we'll see if FM's improved any further, and then we can really get down really to the cleaning, and I'll make a decision whether or not I replace those AF117s there. So yeah, and so I'll just unplug the batteries a minute. And one thing I want to point out is that Hacker radios are so easy to service here. The amp board just comes out on these leads. Here's another amp board. So the amp board just pulls out, so you can work on that as a separate unit. The whole chassis comes. Let's take the amp apart. So to pull the radio section out, excuse me a minute, pull that out, pull the 5-pin plug out, pull the speaker leads out, and there's the amp board. And then the chassis comes out, and you have access to all of this. And there's the rear side of the FM board where I've replaced the transistors and an electrolytic. And there's a little shielded plate that goes on the back of that. Something like that. No, other way around. Like that. So that shielded plate will go on there. So that's how easy they are to work on. The only real problem is getting the switchboard out and things, but you know, these were built to be worked on. And there's the speaker. Right, onwards and upwards. Thanks for watching.